Well, we had this interview scheduled, so we cannot take credit for the timing, but comes on the heels of Shane Ray, the Missouri football player who was pulled over for speeding. The police officers smelled marijuana, searched the car, found a quote-unquote personal amount of marijuana, wrote him a ticket, and he went on his way. That, of course, making national news because Shane Ray is about to be drafted in the first 10 picks of the NFL draft on Thursday. But interesting because if he were in Colorado, it would be legal to be carrying that much amount of marijuana. Our next guest's brother is serving a life sentence in Missouri for marijuana. We'll get to him in just a moment, but you're listening to Big 550 KTRS. You can certainly watch us with our television cameras and crew from the First Rule Film and Broadcast Studio at University Tower. You can watch us at stltoday.com. You can watch us at ktrs.com. You can listen to us on the app. You can watch us on KPLR 11.2. That's channel 187 on Charter. And if you have that HD antenna, it's 11.2. Download the app, one radio station. It's a great app, works anywhere in the world. And, of course, on the Big 550 KTRS. Mike Mazansky. Mike, are you
Hello?
there? Mike, thanks for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS. Your brother, Jeff, they say, is the only man in Missouri serving a life sentence for marijuana.
That is correct, to my knowledge.
When was he arrested and sentenced to life in prison?
He was arrested in, I believe, 91 and sentenced. His first trial was overturned, and he was resentenced in 93, and he's been serving since 93.
So he's been there since 1993, which is 21 years and counting.
Right, in December to be 22 years.
How old is your brother?
My brother is, he just turned 62.
62. In 1994, he was sentenced and convicted to what?
1994, he was sentenced for possession of marijuana. I believe that was it. That was a sentence.
So he was in possession of marijuana. How much marijuana
Correct.
was he in possession of?
In his pocket, he had 2 grams. He had given a ride to his friend, and unknown to him, he picked up some marijuana, and his friend had 7 pounds in his coat pocket, in his coats when they stopped him. It was a sting. They had stopped the original car on the highway, and they did a sting.
So your brother was with somebody in a car when they were pulled over. The person had 7 pounds of pot on them?
He had, yes, like a brick. It was 7 pounds, according to the police.
Okay, and it was in the car. It wasn't on his person?
It wasn't on Jeff's. It was in, when they arrested him, the friend had the pot on him inside his coat.
Okay. And how much pot was found on your brother?
I think he had 2 joints or 2 grams in his pocket. That was it.
Okay. What happened to the friend? Is the friend in jail?
The friend was in jail for 10 years. He got released, and he later died out of jail.
So the friend who had 7 pounds of pot on him in this car was sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Correct.
Why did your brother get a life sentence and the friend only get 10 years?
I don't understand it. It's like that's why is he so special to get a life without parole for 3 pot offenses, non-violent pot offenses? Didn't ever involve a gun. Didn't ever involve children. Didn't ever involve violence.
So this was your third. This was his third conviction on a marijuana offense.
Correct.
So it was part of the 3 strikes you're out rule, I guess.
The only prisoner in Missouri history sentenced for that. Correct.
Okay. What were the other 2 offenses?
The other 2 were pot offenses.
Pot offense. So he was found carrying marijuana or holding marijuana.
Correct.
Was he caught driving under the influence of marijuana, drinking and driving under the drugs influence?
Never.
So the other ones, he just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, where he was picked up and searched, and they found marijuana on him.
Correct.
How much marijuana was found on him with these other two offenses?
First time was under an ounce, and the second time was 35 grams.
35 grams, and that's the same amount that was found on Shane Ray the other day, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So the family you've been conversing with your brother for the last 21 years in a Missouri prison.
Correct. I was just down there the last 2 weekends, and I visited him in jail.
So you and the family have decided to seek clemency from Governor Nixon.
Correct. We've seek clemency for him. It's been over 2 years, and Governor Nixon has yet to act, and he's just sitting on it.
Now, a clemency. Now, have you tried to get clemency from other governors in the past?
No.
No. So this last 2 years struggle has been the first time you've actually moved on somehow getting some type of acquittal or some type of clemency or some type of stay, if you will.
Correct. We ran out of legal options at that point. You want to do your legal options first, and then the last hope of everything is a clemency from the governor. That's the only one who can set him free from his death sentence.
Okay, so is the clemency petition sitting on the governor's desk? Have you done everything you need to do for that?
Yes. In fact, I've been trying to get a hold of the governor for over a month, this past month, beginning of April, and they ignored me. There was one email and 6 phone calls. They ignored me for 3 weeks. They kept saying, they'll give you a call. We'll give you a call back. We promise we'll give you a call back. And then when Show Me Cannabis released a how do you want to say it? Released a press release pointing this out, that how the governor ignored us and is turning her back on us. We got a call from the governor's office to Jeff's lawyer that they wanted to meet.
And that's when you met with the governor.
And that's when I met with the governor's aide. I never met with the governor himself. All we were asking for at the time was just the governor's aide. I know the governor's busy. I know he has stuff to do. We just wanted to talk to the governor's aide to see if there was anything else they needed, anything they were looking for, anything that we could help, or if they had any questions that they want to ask. And basically, they said no. It's being considered, and that was it. So the governor's office said it's being considered. It's yes.
Yeah. You have decided to take your story public.
Correct.
Because you feel what's the strategy behind that?
I feel the people of Missouri and the United States think when we tell them that he was sentenced for 3 years, sentenced for 3 marijuana convictions without any guns involved, without any children, without any violence, they're like, they can't believe that he's been sentenced for mandatory life without parole. And it was, they not in the United States, they can't believe this, and I never could until we started it be thrown over on appeal.
Now you're hoping to put pressure on the governor's office, is that right?
Correct.
You want the governor to sign his clemency petition?
Correct. In fact, today we're at 1:30 this afternoon. We're bringing the governor the Change.org petition with almost 500,000 signatures in support of his clemency, and also we're bringing him a letter from the representatives, over 160 representatives and over a dozen senators in support of his clemency.
The legislature recently revised the criminal code. Talk about that for a moment.
They recently revised it, and in 17, you will not be able to get this sentence again. But unfortunately, they did not do it retroactively, and they're stuck on a bill that's not going to be there anymore. So,
in other words, starting in 2017, if your brother would have done the same exact thing, he wouldn't have been sentenced to life in prison. But because he did it in 1994, that conviction will stand and that sentence will stand.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. How's your brother's spirits?
he's getting older and he's got health problems. He's got a growth on his arm, a cyst on his arm that's about 8 inches long and about 3 inches high, and they're not giving any medical treatment for that. The first time they saw him, they said, "Oh, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with it." He also, when he was in jail, he also broke his foot, and he was denied the doctor for about 6 weeks. And then after he did see the doctor, oh yes, it is broke. And then they left the cast on for an extended period of time, and now he walks with a limp. The medical care is not the best.
Where was
I don't expect them to have the best medical, but I expect them to be cared for in a compassionate way where they're looking after the prisoners.
Yeah. What has the governor's office told you about this petition? Have they said anything? Have they commented in any way, shape, or form?
Nothing. They keep on saying that it's under consideration, and that's it.
Mike, let's just, for those of you just joining us, Mike Mazansky is with us. His brother is in Missouri prison serving a life sentence for a nonviolent medical marijuana charge. 3 of them. 3 strikes, you're out. He was sentenced in 1994, has spent the last 21 years in prison. He is 62 years old right now, and he is seeking a clemency petition from the governor. And Mike, the governor, you've met with his aides, but you haven't been able to meet with the governor. If you were able to meet with the governor, what would you tell him?
I would say to him, the man does not pose a risk to society now. He is getting on in age, and he needs to be home with his family. He served enough time. The crime did not deserve the sentence that he received. It's been almost 22 years in December for 3 pot convictions. Governor Nixon himself said he smoked pot. His son smoked pot. Come on, have some compassion, sir. Have some compassion. Because you need to govern with compassion. There's a time to have a hard line, and there's time to have compassion, and this is one of the compassion times.
Has there been any opposition to your petition?
In the legislature, we have a veto-proof. If it passes, it's going to be veto-proof on the legislators. We're working on the senators. So.
No, I understand that, but I mean, have there been any organizations that have come out against clemency for your son, for your brother? None at all. None. Has the governor's office indicated when they might actually rule on this?
They always say at the end of the term, at the end of his term, and there where we go to the compassion again. Have some compassion. See his health issues for what they are, and release the man, please. President Obama has made some clemencies, and presidents make some clemencies throughout their course of their presidency, and as you say, many times they do it. One of the last things they do in office. Has Governor Nixon granted clemency to some throughout his 2 terms? Governor Nixon, in his 2 terms, I believe he granted clemency to people who were already out of prison, and he commuted this sentence from death sentence, one gentleman from a death sentence to life without parole, and that's the only clemency he's signed.
And he cleared convictions of people who were already out of prison.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is Mike Mazansky. Mike, if somebody wanted to follow this story, or somebody wanted to get in contact with you, or follow along, or help support you, or reach out to you, is there a website?
There's a website. There's freejeffmazansky.org, I believe, .com, and there's also Show Me Cannabis. They're a big supporter of Jeff's clemency. They have a line on there that it takes you all the stories.
Did your brother have a wife and children?
Yes, he had two sons, and he has had a wife, and when he was in prison, she divorced him.
Yeah, the 2 children have basically grown up without a father.
basically exactly. He had to grow up without his father, without their father. I think.
Yeah. Mike.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike. I'll let you finish.
He has great grandchildren that he hasn't seen. He has grandchildren that he hasn't seen yet in prison. It's life goes on, and there he sits in jail rotting.
Mike Mazansky, brother of Jeff Mazansky, the only man in Missouri serving a life sentence for possession of marijuana. Mike, thank you very much for coming in. Keep us informed on the story. We will be watching.
I will do. Thank you very much, sir.
926. You got it. Thank you. 926 here on the Big 550 KTRS. There, but for the grace of God, go any of us.